Good day, I'm Lydia Dankwachinebua, presenting on balancing global integration and local responsiveness in worldwide marketing. I'll start with the introduction and context. Think of worldwide marketing like running one brand across many different countries at the same time. At its core, it means a company is trying to operate globally but still connect locally. This creates a constant tension, a kind of balancing act. On one side, you have standardization. This is when a company tries to keep things the same everywhere. Same product, same branding, same message. Why? Because it saves cost, builds a strong global identity, and makes operations easier. A very good example is Apple. An iPhone in Ghana is basically the same as an iPhone in the US. On the other side, you have adaptation. This is when companies adjust their products or marketing to fit local cultures, taste, and rules. Because what works in one country may not work in another country. For example, McDonald's changes its menu depending on local food habits. The big question is, should companies stay the same everywhere or should they change depending on the market? Theoretical framework. Here, we look at the global integration and then the local responsiveness. We'll also look into some key theories. Imagine a company asking itself, should we run the same system everywhere or adjust to each country? That's where the two core ideas come in. Global integration is about control and efficiency. It's the mindset of let's keep things consistent so that we save cost and build one strong global brand. But local responsiveness pushes back and says, that's fine. But if you ignore local culture, laws, and customer behavior, you will fail. So in reality, companies are constantly pulled in both directions at the same time. Levitt basically argued that the world is becoming more similar because of technology, social media, and globalization. So his idea is customers everywhere are starting to want the same things. So standardization makes sense. But then Bartlett and Goschel come in with a more realistic view. They say, not so fast. The world is not that simple. Yes, some things are becoming global, but differences still matter a lot. So instead of choosing one side, they argue that companies must do both at the same time. Be efficient globally, but still flexible locally. That's what they call a transnational approach. Drivers of global integration. First, think about economies of scale. If a company produces the same product in large quantities for the whole world, it doesn't have to redesign, retool, or repackage for every country. That means low production cost, bulk purchasing of materials, faster manufacturing. With brand consistency, you maintain a uniform identity. So we can look at Coca-Cola's visual branding. It helps to reinforce global recognition and then trust. One strong global message can be reused across countries, saving advertising costs, time, and creative resources. Technological convergence. Today, the world is connected through shared technologies like smartphones, internet platforms, and global standards like 5G. This allows companies to coordinate operations from one central system. The Apple example brings it all together. Apple designs one core iPhone for the global market. This means one production system, one supply chain, one premium brand image worldwide. Drivers of local responsiveness. The simple answer is because customers are not the same everywhere. If a company ignores local differences, people simply won't buy the product. We look at cultural and religious differences. What people eat, wear, or value is deeply influenced by culture. So if a product goes against those norms, it gets rejected. An example is selling beef products in a market where many people don't eat beef. It's not just ineffective, it's completely out of touch. Legal and regulatory requirements. Every country has its own rules on safety, labeling, ingredients, and more. If a company doesn't adapt, the product can be banned, or the company can face fines or be forced out of the market. Consumer preferences and purchasing power. Even if people like your product, they must be able to afford and use it comfortably. That is why companies offer smaller packaging in lower income markets, and then they also adjust flavors to local taste, and they can also modify features based on usage habits. A case example is McDonald's. McDonald's doesn't just sell the same burger everywhere. It changes its menu to reflect local taste, like vegetarian options in India or teriyaki flavors in Japan. Impact on operational decisions. Here we will analyze product development, marketing communications, pricing strategy, and distribution. Companies are essentially trying to separate what must remain global from what can be local. A core product, like Toyota's hybrid technology, is standardized because it drives efficiency, innovation, and cost control. But the outer layer, the features, design, and specifications, is adapted. So, analytically, this is about modular strategy. Yes, keeping the high-cost, high-value components global while localizing the flexible elements. Marketing communication. A brand like Nike cannot afford to lose its global identity because that's where its value comes from. But at the same time, messaging that ignores local culture loses emotional impact. So the decision here is about message architecture. The core narrative is standardized. That means to empower performance. Then the execution is localized, where we look at language, visuals, and then cultural references. This allows firms to maintain brand equity globally while achieving relevance locally. Pricing is where global ambition meets local reality. A company may have a global pricing positioning, premium, mid-range, or low cost, but actual prices must reflect local income levels, competitive intensity, and also willingness to pay. Finally, we will analyze distribution. This is where operational efficiency meets ground-level complexity. Centralized logistics reduce cost and improve control. But the last mile, which is getting the product into the customer's hands, requires local knowledge. So companies adopt a hybrid structure, like centralized systems for scale and coordination, as well as local partners for flexibility and market access. The consequences of strategic failure. Here, we highlight what happens when firms mismanage the balance between global integration and local responsiveness. If a company overstandardizes, it becomes efficient but disconnected from the market. Customers don't see themselves in the product, so demand weakens. If it over-adapts, the opposite happens. Operations become fragmented, costs rise, and the company loses the advantage of being global. So the core issue is not just choice, it's imbalance. Financial fallout. Firms invest heavily in expansion. I'll use Walmart in Germany as a real example. They try to replace their US model too closely. Same service style, same operational logic, without adapting to local shopping culture and labor norms. The result was poor customer response, operational friction, and eventually complete market exit. Brand reputational damage. If a company adopts too much across markets, the brand becomes inconsistent. Customers no longer understand what it stands for. Even a single misjudged campaign can trigger backlash, making the brand appear out of touch or disrespectful. Synthesis and managerial implications. The first key insight is the one-size-fits-all strategies. The first key insight is that one-size-fits-all strategies no longer work. Markets today are too diverse, too dynamic, and too interconnected. So managers cannot rely on a single fixed strategy. They must think in terms of flexibility and precision. Dynamic equilibrium. The balance between global integration and local responsiveness is not something you solve once, it's something you continuously manage. With a managerial role, identifying which elements of the value chain to centralize for cost versus which to localize for impact plays a vital role. To conclude, global marketing is essentially about getting the balance right. On one side, you have integration, which gives companies scale, efficiency, and a consistent global identity. On the other side, you have responsiveness, which ensures the business stays relevant, compliant, and aligned with customer expectations. Neither works effectively on its own. Firms that master this transnational balance achieve sustainable competitive advantage in an evolving global landscape. And these are my references. Thank you.